Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Shinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantastohya Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhritsatam Nastya Prayeshwa Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Om Matnana Timirandhasya Nananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkripatvamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinakaranam. So, thank you all for being here. Today, we are hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, Verse 16. Nahyasya karhichit rajan puman veda vidhishtitam yat vijitnasaya yukta muhyanti kavayopihi. Nahyasya karhichit rajan puman veda vidhishtitam yat vijitnasaya yukta muhyanti kavayopihi. Na, never, he, certainly, asya, his, karhichit, whatsoever, rajan, O king, puman, anyone, veda, knows, vidishtitam, plan, yet, which, vijitnasaya, with exhaustive enquiries, yuktaha, being engaged, muhyanti, muhyanti is bewildered, kavaya, great philosophers, api is even, he, certainly. Meaning, O king, no one can know the plan of the Lord, Sri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. The bewilderment of Maharaji Yudhishthira over his past sinful acts and the resultant sufferings, etc., is completely negated by the great authority Bhishma, one of the 12 authorized persons. Bhishma wanted to impress upon Maharaj Yudhishthira that since time immemorial, no one, including such demigods as Shiva and Brahma, could ascertain the real plan of the Lord. So what can we understand about it? It is useless also to inquire about it. Even the exhaustive philosophical inquiries of sages cannot ascertain the plan of the Lord. The best policy is simply to abide by the orders of the Lord without argument. The sufferings of the Pandavas were never due to their past deeds. The Lord had to execute the plan of establishing the kingdom of virtue. And therefore, his own devotees suffered temporarily in order to establish the conquest of virtue. Bhishma Dev was certainly satisfied by seeing the triumph of virtue, and he was glad to see King Yudhishthira on the throne, although he himself fought against him. Even a great fighter like Bhishma could not win the battle of Kurukshetra because the Lord wanted to show that vice cannot conquer virtue, regardless of who tries to execute it. Bhishma Dev was a great devotee of the Lord, but he chose to fight against the Pandavas by the will of the Lord, because the Lord wanted to show that a fighter like Bhishma cannot win on the wrong side. Om Atnanatimirandhasya Nananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, once again, no one can know the plan of Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. So the Sanskrit word that is used here is vijitnasaya. Vijitnasaya, meaning inquiring exhaustively, and still they could not get the answer and they were bewildered. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is kind of giving an essential points explained by Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev being one of the Mahajans, so his understanding is, by revelation from the Supreme Lord himself. So these are the main things that Prabhupada is pointing out, that Bhishma Dev has pointed out, that the sufferings of the Pandavas is not by past sinful activities, and even great personalities like Lord Shiva or Brahma, they could never ascertain and understand the real plan of the Supreme Lord. Philosophical inquiries by great sages who are expert in philosophical matters, they couldn't ascertain. And so the point was simply accept the arrangement of Lord without argument. So that is a pretty interesting statement. And it's quite questionable when you hear that. You wonder, how can you just simply accept without understanding? So there's a way to clearly understand what is the meaning of simply accepting means. It is not a superficial simply accepting. There is something much more than that. We'll get to that. And the Lord and devotees, they did not suffer because of their karma. I mean, the Lord's devotees, they never suffered because of karma. And this Bhishma Dev is telling, or Prabhupada is summarizing there, that this temporarily they suffered. From the material point of view, temporarily they suffered. And that is to establish the kingdom of virtue. So Lord is also showing that wise cannot conquer virtue. And Bhishma himself, who was a great devotee of the Lord, he was virtuous by nature, and he was put in a position to fight with the Pandavas. And Bhishma couldn't win on this battlefield because he was on the wrong side. And his being on the wrong side also was the Lord's arrangement. Bhishma Dev fully understands this, that, and he had absolutely no issue whatsoever accepting the will of the Lord. And that is quite obvious by the fact that, he's on the bed of arrows and he is speaking all these wonderful truths about the Supreme Lord. So Bhishma Dev's situation itself, it is a very detailed background to that. When Bhishma Dev realized his father wanted to marry Satyavati, who is the daughter of a fisherman, and the fisherman had refused to allow that marriage. When Bhishma Dev went and met with the fisherman put forward some conditions that, his daughter's children should inherit the kingdom, and Bhishma Dev himself cannot get married to produce any children. And above and beyond that, he also asked a question, that is, what if in case my grandchildren are incapable of ruling? Then what will happen? And Bhishma Dev said, I will always respect those who are sitting on the throne of Hastinapur, and no matter what it is, I will make sure that they are taken care of. And Shantanu Maharaj, his father, blessed him that, you for the sacrifice that Bhishma was willing to undertake for pleasing his father, Shantanu Maharaj blessed him that, my dear son, you will never die unless you really want to die. Nobody can defeat you in the battlefield. So it is only by Bhishma's own will that he succumbed to that situation with ending up in the bed of arrows. So Lord Shiva, Narada, Kapila, all these people are the great personalities who are the part of, they are the 12 Mahajans, and somehow confidentially they understand, they know the glories of the Lord confidentially. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes that the ecstatic symptoms or anubhavas seen in the devotees, when they are interacting with the Lord, it gets more enhanced. The devotees' feelings and the Lord's feelings get very enhanced, when there is a steadiness attained. And that steadiness is seen in examples like the case of Mother Yashoda and her interactions with Krishna in Damodar Leela, or Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So these anubhavas, and that is shown by these devotees, are quite visible to Lord Shiva, Narada, Kapiladev, Bhishmadev, and all these great personalities. They can see, and they can see by looking at these symptoms, they can see that there is a dependence for the Lord and the devotees on one another. There is something intense that is controlling and that is melting the heart of the Lord. And that which controls and melts that heart of the Lord, that is prema, which we call as bhakti or divine love. And so this is quite visible to Mahajanas. And then comes this question of tribulations. Tribulations are quite different from the intense feeling that you see in the case of Mother Yashoda and Krishna, or Arjuna and Krishna. Tribulations also, according to our acharyas, they are another feature of the transcendental bhava between the Lord and his devotees. So in some cases, when we see tribulations, we see it as something totally different, but the Mahajanas see it different, because the tribulations are also interactions between the Lord and his devotee. And in some cases, sometimes a devotee is put into serious material trouble. So he can get delivered from this illusory material existence. An example is that of contemporary, I would say near contemporary example is that of Pundanam. Those who are from south, they know that in Guruvayur temple, Krishna temple, Pundanam was a great saintly Brahmana who lived there, great devotee of the Lord. And he was, everybody knew about his devotional qualities. He was attached to the Supreme Lord, and yet he had one single desire, and his desire was to have a child. So in his old age, he got a son, and the son dies prematurely, because it was the name giving or milk giving ceremony. They had rested the child on a bed, and the visitors, the ladies who came, they took their chadar and threw it on that bed carelessly. It covered the child suffocated, and he died. And Pundanam, this great devotee, was heartbroken, and he couldn't get over the grief that this child was the one deep attachment in his life. And so after some time, his devotion, it overpowered these feelings of distress. And then he, from his own inner realization, he composed a poem, which is very well known to everyone, at least in South India. And there, one of his realizations is that the Lord as a child, when he is playing within my heart or within my mind, what is the need for me to have other children? That was his deep realization. And that was not just some superficial writing. He said that from his heart. And so it's quite clear this is a direct interaction between Krishna and this devotee. So one way or other, the Lord is taking back the conditioned souls back to his abode. And Mahajanas, they know this, they can understand it. And by their grace, we can understand a little bit about this. But even the Mahajanas, they cannot understand the intentions of the Lord or the real power of the Lord. Mahajanas also cannot understand the intentions. I would like to say something about the time element here. So Bhagavad Gita, in the 11th chapter, Krishna says, Kalosmi loka kshayakrit pravruddho. Time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds. So in Vedas, it is stated that ultimately the Supreme Lord, he destroys everything. So he creates, he maintains, and he destroys. So one of the verses that is coming in Katha Upanishad, it says, Yasya Brahmaja Kshatram cha Ubhe Bhavate Odana Mrityur Yasyopasechanam Ka Itha Veda Yatra Sa. Eventually, all the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and everyone else, they are also devoured by the Supreme Lord. So time is identical with the Supreme Lord. And influence of time means that is the inexplicable wish of the Lord, and nothing, there is no need to be lamenting about this. And when some matter is beyond our control, when there is clear-cut understanding, better not to lament about it. So time is destruction. All the manifestations, they get vanquished by time. How does it happen? By the desire of the Lord. And that is what we know as the law of nature. So in the previous classes, many devotees spoke that the Pandavas, they went through unlimited sufferings, and yet they were followers of dharmic principles. They got guidance from Brahmanas. They got guidance from the Supreme Lord. And so there is no grudge in the heart of such devotees when they understood that everything is by the arrangement of Krishna. Queen Kunti suffered a lot. Her husband died very young. She had to take care of the children in adverse circumstances. And yet, what is her prayer? Her prayer is, let these calamities come again and again so that I can see your lotus feet. That was her prayer. So Bhishma Dev is concluding that this inevitable time factor, due to the inevitable time, this is all happening. So Krishna in the form of time is directly controlling. But he controls not only everything in this world, even the managers, the universal controllers who are the wind god, the sun, moon, everything is controlled by the Supreme Lord. And no one is exempt from the influence of time, because everybody comes under the influence. The example given is just like the wind, which is controlling the cloud. So Bhishma is already ruled out. Yudhishthira has no prarabdha karma or anything like that. He's Dharmaraj himself. And so prarabdha karma cannot even come near him. So it is only time. It is the direct intervention of the Lord. And so, Kapila Dev states in third canto that I think it is the third canto where Kapila Dev is saying, his wheel of time, it does not affect his devotees. If so, Pandavas were in great relationship with Krishna, either Dasya Rasa or Sakya Rasa or Vatsalya Rasa, this type of relationship, and it still appears without any cause. Time has produced some effects in their lives also. So what is the conclusion? No one can interfere with the plans of the Lord. That's for sure. Even Mahajanas cannot interfere. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentaries, he questions, so does the Lord want to give suffering? So the answer to that is no. He does not want to give suffering because he is kind, karunya. That is his extraordinary feature. And then does he want to give happiness? It doesn't look like, because they were not fully happy under these circumstances. So does the Lord want to give both suffering and happiness? And that's also not true, because that's not Krishna's nature. So the conclusion is no one can solve this problem by analysis or inquiry. Even great sages could not get answer to this problem by inquiry. So then there is no point in inquiry. Krishna was present right in front of these Pandavas, and they could have asked him, and he could have answered also. But we don't see them asking, why are you putting us into trouble? But even if he did answer these questions, it would have been quite bewildering. So it doesn't make any sense at all. And inquiries alone is not going to do anything. So in a sense, Krishna is, we can see that Krishna is controlled by devotees who have this intense love for him. And one who knows that, one who understands that, they will come to the conclusion that there is the intense love between the Lord and his devotees. It always exists. So they come to the conclusion that that in these trying circumstances, these devotees, how do they conduct themselves? You can see the prema of the devotees like Draupadi. In that most trying circumstance, Draupadi is fully dependent on Krishna. She's not complaining or anything. She's depending on Krishna. Queen Kunti, she's depending on Krishna. And others, when the difficulties are increasing, they become more dependent on Krishna. And that shows that they fully understand the workings of all these things. And so, in essence, what are we understanding? That even great philosophers, by exhaustive philosophical inquiries, they cannot get an answer. They are bewildered. And if Krishna is directly asked, and even if he gives an answer, even that will be quite bewildering. Mahajanas can understand by the ecstatic symptoms produced by prema, and in that they can see these symptoms both in the devotees and the Lord. Like in Damodar Leela, the Lord is forgetting he is Lord, and he's completely coming under, become very submissive to Mother Yashoda. He becomes a chariot driver of Krishna. So you can see that interaction, the mutual love that the Lord and the devotees have. So even they do not, the Mahajanas also do not fully understand this plan of the Lord. So sometimes the devotees' problems, the Lord gives some problems so that their love for the Supreme, it is intensified. That is also within the plan. And sometimes, so when you put all these things together, you come to understand that simply by accepting the arrangement of the Lord without argument, that's what these devotees are doing under those circumstances. So how do we do that? Because we have absolutely no clue. We are not such great devotees. We cannot force ourselves to say, okay, that is Lord's plan, and so we are going to accept that. We are not at that platform at all. So the answer to this, somehow I was able to see something in the first, the answer to that probably is there in so many places within the scriptures. But Srimad Bhagavatam, the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is giving some clear indications here. Vyasadeva is beginning Srimad Bhagavatam with this addressing Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So there the Pranava mantra is placed in the beginning. So Pranava is the seed of Srimad Bhagavatam. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva. So the first verse, Janmadhyasya yadho anvadat itarataschatveshvabhitnaswarat tene brahma hridaya adi kavaye muhyanti yat suraya tejo vari mridham yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha dhamna swena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. So it is beginning with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and then the Pranava mantra, and then it is ending with Satyam Param Dhimahi. We meditate upon. It is not I meditate upon. It is in plural. We meditate upon. And that means Vyasadeva along with his disciples, which means it includes all of us also. We meditate upon that supreme absolute truth. That's what is said in this verse. And so what is that absolute truth? Yatraha Trisargomrisa, from whom creation, maintenance, and destruction, everything is taking place. And Charteshwa, and there are three matters he is connected with. He is present through connection, and he is also disconnected. And the example given is just as gold is present in the gold ornament. When the ornament is destroyed, the gold still remains. So material world, it is a transformation of material energy. So the Lord remains even after the destruction. So he is present through connection and disconnection. So the question can be raised, um, are you worshipping the energy, pradhan, or the unmanifested material elements? No, the Lord is abit naha. He is knowing all. Pradhan is not conscious or all knowing. So are you glorifying the living entity? No, I'm glorifying Swarat, supremely independent Lord. And who is he? He manifested Vedic knowledge to Brahma. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kave, to his heart. And did Brahma get this knowledge by his effort? No, Brahma cannot understand by his own effort. Mukhyandi yat Suraya, even great scholars, Suris, even they cannot understand the Supreme Lord. Brahma understood because it was revealed to him. And how is it Tejovari Mridam? The material world is like a, the material world is like a mirror, where you can see the sunlight. It does not have a separate existence from sun. So the material world has no independent existence, just as a mirage is dependent on the sun. So like this, temporarily it is true, only because the Lord is there. And Dhamna Swena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam, by his own spiritual potency, he has driven out all the ignorance, and Satyam Param Dhimahi, I am worshipping that absolute truth. So it is this meditation that is recommended. The Lord is teaching the sincere devotee from within, and then the devotee accepts these tribulations as the favors of the Lord. So there is no difference between tribulations and benedictions for a devotee. So equally, this is for his own benefit. So then we come to the position of acceptance. This is what happens. So Vyasadeva is very clearly saying this in this verse. So there is no tribulations for the devotee. The devotee has a clear-cut understanding of the situation, because he has that direct connection with the Supreme Lord. For us, we may not. So the question here is what was in the beginning. The beginning, it was said that no one can know the plan of the Lord, even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, and they are bewildered. They are bewildered because just inquiries alone is not going to give us the answers. They are bewildered because because it is not possible to fully understand. We can understand something from the words of the Mahajanas. We can see that confidentially they know the glories of the Lord. We can understand somewhat, but we cannot fully understand. So that is quite obvious here. The Lord reveals himself. So Satyam Param Dhimahi. Great philosophers have inquired exhaustively, and they are bewildered. So it is not just a philosophical analysis that can reveal the plan of the Supreme Lord. The plan of the Supreme Lord is revealed by this process of meditation. So that Lord will teach one from within the heart. And then when the tribulations come, the devotee will accept it as favors of the Lord. So there is, the Lord is absolute, and for him there is there is no difference between tribulations and benedictions. Both are equally beneficial for the living entities as well. So we come to the position of acceptance. So this verse actually clearly gives us some insight into the workings of all these situations. that we discussed, the sense of our understanding. So I think I will stop with that and leave it to your comments or inputs.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I liked your presentation, and I just had a comment, and also would like to hear you comment on it. But the example that you gave of the South Indian Brahmana devotee who lost the son, and yeah, that's a very, very graphic example, very sad, but such a good example of a devotee who, I mean, he was a great devotee of the Lord, and he was very emotionally affected, and yet he was able to ultimately turn towards the Lord and see it as the mercy of the Lord. And the other example that always comes to my mind is Vidra, when he tried to first when he came home and he was offended by Duryodhana, and then he was asked to leave. And when he was asked to leave from the palace, and it was also explained at that time that Vidra was extremely hurt by Duryodhana's piercing words, but then he also saw it as the arrangement of the Lord and a blessing in the end. So it seems like, and so many similar examples can be given, but it seems like even in the case of pure devotees, it's not that they don't feel any emotional pushback, but it seems that many, or mostly all of them, do feel either anger or pain or sadness, suffering. But then what defines their devotional side is what they do next, right? The next thing that they
Yes.
The next thing that they do is turn towards Krishna. So I feel like it's also a good lesson for us, because so many things happen in our lives and we feel pain, suffering, hurt, but then what do we do next is like what will define which direction we move in. Would you like to comment on that?
I didn't hear, somehow it got cut off. What did you ask?
No, I was just saying that, and so in a similar sense, we may not be pure devotees, but we also experience pain and suffering, obviously. But what defines our trajectory in our devotional life will be determined by what we do next. Also.
Yeah. Right.
So it seems like a hope-giving type of message to me, that even pure devotees feel something, but then they turn towards Krishna. So it's okay for me, a conditioned soul, to feel something, so long as I continue to turn towards Krishna.
Absolutely. And so that is an example of this great devotee who it is not even like too far away, maybe 1 or 2 generations back, and his experience is a very clear-cut example. But when you study his life history, you see that this devotee, he was completely dedicated in his devotion to Krishna, and he had absolutely no other desires other than this just one single desire to have a child. And so he ended up getting a child. Krishna satisfied his desire or when he was pretty old, and it so happened the child's life was taken away accidentally, because these ladies, they just put their upper garments on the body of the child who was lying down, and they did not notice there was a child there. And this is real story, and this is not a story, this is real. And so his pain was very severe. He could not tolerate that pain at all. However, because he was a he was so fixed in his devotion to Krishna that slowly the Lord revealed that from within his own mind to get to that realization that there is no need for this kind of a deep attachment. So in Malayalam, the verse goes, I'm sure if Sandhya is here, she would know, Unni Krishnan Manasil Kalikumbol, Unnigal Matu Venamo Makalai. When the Lord is playing within my heart as a child, Manas is actually mind as a child, what is the need for me to have other children? That realization sunk in him because of his deep attachment to Krishna. So the circumstance was very unbearable. The pain is real. And so any one of us who have accepted the material body in this world, the pain is real. Whenever there is an adverse circumstance that comes our way, we are not without body. So the physical pain is real, the mental pain is real, emotional pain is real. But by the mercy of the Lord, if we are able to come to that realization that there is something beyond all these, and then you will accept, so there is no point in superficially accepting. So actually in this verse, what was the translation? No one can know the plan of Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. So inquiry is not at all, inquiry is required. We are all told you should get your questions answered. Philosophers inquiring exhaustively, vijitnanasya, they could not get an answer. They are bewildered. So realization comes when one is in deep meditation. And that is where the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, I felt, it is saying, Satyam Param Dhimahi. Dhimahi is not, let me meditate. Usually we see that I meditate upon the Supreme Lord, but actually Dhimahi is a plural word. Let us meditate. And so meditation on the Supreme Lord, even in chanting, japa is called japa meditation. Japa is not japa, something, you chant japa and your mind is all over the market and you have absolutely no connection whatsoever with the Lord. That is not japa. Japa meditation is like a deep, completely identifying, absorbed in the hearing of the holy name. And our acharyas have given voluminous classes and so much literature available on how to perfect in japa. So the technique given to us is very, very tangible, and it is very possible to do that. When you are able to do that japa meditation, the connection with the Supreme, then naturally the Lord from within the heart will enliven the devotee. And that's what happens. And so there is, for a devotee, it comes to a point of there is no difference between tribulations and benedictions. Both are equally beneficial for a devotee. So how do you come to that? It is easy to say about all these things, but as soon as one little thing happens, we are like completely bewildered. And that's not what it is. It is an inner deep realization that has come in the case of this person, that he felt when the Lord is playing within my heart. So this cannot be imitated upon, and it requires that type of dependence on the Supreme. And that realization comes from that place. That realization does not come very superficially. It does not. But that is the answer to this. And it is not, any amount of inquiries is not going to be substantial. Inquiries are not going to, inquiries we have to inquire, but that is not the methodology. It is final, total absorption in the holy name of the Supreme Lord, particularly, specifically required in this age of Kali. There is no other method. Other type of meditations won't even work, because we don't have the ability to sit and do that type of meditation even for 10 minutes. We cannot do. Yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mathaji.
Yes, Vishaka.
Mathaji, I really like the point that you made, because when I was hearing the questions was coming, but then you said that repeated the translation again, that the inquiries are not enough. So we do get those answers sometimes by deep realization, and how we can do is, just now you said, to do good chanting, the focus chanting, and that is what. But just one question, Mataji, we cannot understand the plan, but sometimes things happen in our life where we have to make decisions. So then how do we know that sometimes we have to make difficult decisions? So how do we know that it is the plan of Krishna, or this is what I desire, and this is what I am going for?
Well, Sadhu and Shastra, even the great Mahajanas, they are not able to fully understand the Lord, because confidentially they may know about the glories of the Lord. Krishna reveals to them, because they are such great souls. We are not. We are just ordinary people. And when in doubt, if there is something that, if there is a devotee in your life who you trust, or someone who is in that position, we are very fortunate. Srila Prabhupada has created a society for us, that we have wonderful devotees all around us, and someone who may have a deeper spiritual insight, somebody who can give guidance from that perspective. And one can always have, if one does not understand, one can always have discussions with such authorities, and we have plenty of such devotees available in our life. That's what I would do if I do not understand something.
Okay, Mataji, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, Mataji, some decisions that even devotees cannot make on our behalf, it's like
No.
they might give.
They will not make decisions on your behalf, but you can still get the wise counsel, someone who you feel you trust. And these are devotees who are practicing devotees, and they are not going to give advice just from the top of their head. They give that from the position of realization, of understanding. Such devotees counsel will be very helpful when we are confused. That's why it is a sadhu and shastra. We need both. If we are not able to fully understand the shastric message, then naturally you turn towards the sadhu. That will give clarity.
Yes, Mataji.
Who else will you turn to? If
That's
we
right,
don't,
Mataji.
if we don't, you turn to. We cannot ask somebody who is walking on the street. That will be a very bad advice. Right?
Right. Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you,
Mataji.
Mataji.
This all glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Who is this?
This is Shatarupa Dasi, Mataji.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Mataji, there are many things that I appreciated and learned, but one specific takeaway for me, and also inspiration, is the way you delivered the message, because you went back to Bhagavatam for reference again and again, and that inspired me a lot. It actually helps to see where the roots are, so that actually is a important thing, and I feel very inspired by that, and want to start developing and cultivating that, to just go back to Bhagavatam when in doubt, and when I need more understanding of the subject matter of when we are doing some verse, it doesn't mean it's never discussed anywhere else. So there is so much given, and it's normally very easy to just contemplate and concoct, and it's difficult. I find it very difficult to bring my attention back to where else this is spoken and how else this is shown in our scriptures. I find it difficult for me. So I feel it's very inspiring to um, see this and learn it. I'm sure it is years of devotional service and your absorption. So that cannot be imitated or just overnight learned, but I'm seriously wanting to get there. So thank you so much, Mathaji.
But I wouldn't say that I am in that position at all, but I cannot speak anything at all if I don't hear and read. I am zero when it comes to just to create something, out of nowhere. So it is all in the scriptures. And this verse is really very, I mean, this is not only this verse, there are unlimited number of verses which is giving us so much guidance. But exhaustive inquiry is something we were asked to do, right? Anything in spiritual life, you don't get it nowhere if you don't properly inquire. And inquiry is necessary. But there is nowhere in that first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is extensively, so many devotees have spoken about that first verse. Nowhere in that verse it is said that, even though after describing that from the primeval cause of all causes, he is the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction, and he's directly and indirectly conscious of all the manifestations, and he's fully independent, Swarat. He's fully independent. The Lord there is no boundaries for him at all. And he is imparting the Vedic knowledge to the Brahma. And even the great sages, like the Surya, meaning that the persons who are so knowledgeable, they are bewildered, and that bewilderment is like the illusory representation of water seen on a fire and all that. And after saying all of that, it is said that it is only because of him everything is existing. And if there is a connection with the Lord, that is meaningful. There is connection and there is also disconnection. If there is a connection, it is because he is present there. And so what is this huge verse, which has been volumes, so many devotees have spoken about this verse, and it is concluding Satyam Param Dhimahi. Let us meditate upon that absolute truth. So also there is more explanations that what is that absolute truth? Are you meditating upon that absolute truth, which is Pradhan, which is the energy of the Lord, from whom everything comes? Or are you meditating upon the Jiva? Are you meditating upon this thing, that thing? No. The answer is no. I am meditating upon that Supreme Lord who is fully independent, and that Supreme Lord with specific qualifications. And so let us meditate. That's all the conclusion of that word. And that gives the answer to me. I felt like this. I'm sure there are other verses, but this being the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, it was so staring you at your face that all your philosophical inquiries, everything, it will take you somewhere. But if there is no meditation, there is no, our process is not complete without deep meditation. In Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, after you have heard exhaustively, everything is exhausted, studied all the Vedas, you cannot get him like that. And ultimately that love, pure love, the prema has to be developed. And how do you develop that prema? Without deep meditation. How do you even get it without the mercy of the devotees of the Lord? How do you get it without the mercy of the Lord, which is coming through the devotee of the Lord? So this is like so interconnected a process, and it is not about I mean, we do need to discuss things, we need to inquire, we need to do all that. But the technique is really pointed out, deep meditation. And that is japa meditation given to us. And so japa meditation is not like you just count the beats also. Japa meditation is, how do you do that perfectly? Perfecting japa. That is that, and it was quite obvious. So I think anytime, I'm not saying I'm very disqualified. I'm not a very qualified person at all. But I feel that when we look deeper and when we are very thoughtful, Krishna reveals these things. And even to find a verse that is right in front of us in Srimad Bhagavatam, just one verse is enough. We don't need the entire book or anything. Just to find that verse, sometimes the verse will be hiding in front of our eyes and it just reveals itself. Thank you all. I think I took too much of your time. And thank you all for 1 second. Let me just see one thing here. Yes. For the last time, let me just check if anybody has any pressing discussion points or anything like that. Please let me know.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please inform my listeners all
The
Doubt Master General here, Mataji.
What is that?
Doubt Master General, I'm saying.
Okay.
Mataji, I think I really, relished what you said, and especially going back to the source of Bhagavatam, like Shatrup Mataji said. But still, I will ask one question. Because it's this section is starting with I think the next several verses are very interesting. Now, my question is, why does Bhishma Dev address it as time factor? Just like how you explained how Krishna is the source. Why does he specifically point to the time factor? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, we know that everything in material my understanding, there may be many explanations, but time is the propelling force. Time is the force which is managing everything. The example given in one of those verses is just like the clouds are driven by the wind. And I think it was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Somewhere I read that it's not even just the clouds, even the planetary system, everything is moved, like that. And I don't know what type of wind, but something is moving all of this. And so your question is like, why did Bhishma Dev mention about time? So time factor, that is one of the important ones of the 5 important topics discussed in Bhagavad Gita. Time is one important element, and everything. There is not only in this verse, it is described. When you analyze this verse, it says, like, you going into the commentaries by the acharyas, it says like it's not only ordinary living entities like us, but even the universal managers like the wind god, sun god, everybody is affected by time factor within the material creation. And time exists in a different form in the spiritual realm, as we all know. But the time factor that is here in this material realm, it is a very strong propelling force. Nobody can escape the influence of the time. And in the case of Pandavas, Bhishma Dev is trying to impress it upon us that they have no prarabdha karma. It is Bhishma Dev who is the son of, who is Yamaraj, Dharmaraj himself. For him, there cannot be any prarabdha karma. And so he said, why would they be put into so much of suffering? And this is direct intervention of the Lord in their life. And there is a purpose why that direct intervention is taking place. They could have asked directly. It's very interesting. I think it was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary where I read that they could have asked directly to Bhishma Dev. Yudhishthira could have asked directly to Krishna, why are you putting me through all this, right? Why I have to go through all these sufferings? We don't see that kind of questions coming from the Pandavas anytime, even when they are in the middle of so many unprecedented difficulties. They are not at all questioning why. Even when their children were killed in the last point of this battle, nobody asked, why Krishna, why did this happen? They did not ask at all. So the time factor, it is influencing everything within the creation, not only the ordinary living entities, but also the universal managers, which is the wind, sun, moon. Everything is affected by time factor. Krishna in the form of time is doing that. And so it's a very, very important thing. The time has an influence. Time is influencing all of us, we tiny little living entities too. So there are only a couple of things that we can analyze. Am I suffering because of my past karma, or am I suffering because this is a natural course of events that are taking place? The more one becomes situated in devotion to Krishna, the more one will get some sort of clarity. The time factor itself is acting. Time factor is anyway acting, and it is Krishna who is acting. And so that is the most important factor. Many things that we may look at and think that this is karma, especially we are so used to thinking in terms of karmic reactions. But in the case of a devotee like Bhishma Dev, or in the case of a devotee like Yudhishthira, there are so many things in the scriptures which shows their unique positions and their quality of their devotion, everything. It is so beautifully described that, how is it possible for them? And so Bhishma Dev, being one of the Mahajanas, is giving us an insight. So I think I touched upon the point that the beauty of hearing from the Mahajanas is because they are getting some confidential knowledge about the glories of the Lord. But they themselves, they don't know his intentions and all that. That is very clearly stated. They don't know the intentions of the Lord, but they get the glories of the Lord. And so when it is coming from Bhishma Dev, he's speaking very clearly in so many verses there about the time factor. So other than the normal thing that we always hear about karma, the role of time, the Lord acting as time. And this is very nice subject to understand, that we all come under the influence of time. Even the great Mahajanas come under everybody knows, they all understand how the time factor is working in the lives of everybody. And so that's why I feel like that's my understanding that Bhishma is pointing out. Is there any other factor which is as extensively influencing our life as time? Time acts upon everybody, and time is the Lord himself. That is his energy. That is my understanding, but one can think about further, and I'm sure you can get many angles of this, I would assume, but that's my understanding, limited.
No, thank you, Mataji. I think it's very helpful. We often forget how influential time is. We just keep moving in life. Yes, thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I took more time here. If there isn't anything special.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah.
One minor question, Mataji. In the past few verses, Bhishma Dev is emphasizing on time. You today emphasized on time. What struck me was, like, all the other material elements and even forces and other things have demigods, but time is one thing that doesn't have a demigod assigned. Is there a reason that
Time is Krishna? Yes, there is the reason. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, time I am. What is the reference? Time I am reference in Bhagavad Gita. If you look it up, you can see. Clearly, Krishna says, I am time. So, because of that, we know there is no need for any demigod in charge of time. That is Krishna.
Yeah, okay, Mataji. Because that is where I get confused, because he also says, I am the taste of the water that you drink. And, you know,
Yeah.
for what you have a demigod.
Yes, he is the taste of water. He is so many things. Krishna's opulence are described in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, and so many places it is all described. He is also time. But time is one of the 5 main topics which are listed belonging to Bhagavad Gita. And the Lord is telling, I am time. I am time energy.
Okay,
so yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And Panjat kalpataro bhayasya kripa sindobhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you all for your attendance. Appreciate that very much.